partners. Yogi Jashnani is the Chief Commercial Officer at Ideal Image. He's a returning champion to the Insider Summits. When he was CMO at Advance Auto Parts, a couple of years ago, we had him on our stages, and we had a long, great conversation that really engaged the audience about his notions of left and right brain marketing, which we're not going to go into now, but you can go back and get the videotape for that one. But in addition to having worked at Advance Auto Parts, he spent a decade at Capital One. Yogi, how are you doing? Where are you coming from today?
I'm doing well, Steve. Great to be back. I'm in sunny Tampa, Florida.
Florida.
Can't complain.
So you're more humid than the rest of us right now.
Yeah.
Yogi, welcome back. It's great to have you back, and thanks for doing this. You know, and I mentioned your progeny before coming to Ideal Image, which we want to get to. But you worked at a range of companies of different scales and in different models and product. CapOne for many years, Advance Auto Parts for a number of years, and now the Ideal Image brand. When you think about having built performance marketing teams across those different sized companies, those very different kinds of brands, what's different and the same about building a performance marketing program at such different scale?
Absolutely, Steve. So again, thank you for having me, and welcome to all of the attendees. So just a couple of points, right? So Capital One, as most people would know the brand, again, a Fortune 100, Advanced Auto Parts, a Fortune 500. For us at Ideal Image, many people may not be aware of the brand. So we are the largest chain of med spas in the country, and we're the #1 D2C aesthetics platform. It's a fairly fragmented industry, but really fast growing. So went from a place where my team or my budget at Capital One was multiples of what our entire revenue is. So it's an order of magnitude shift, and honestly, it's made me a better marketer. And let me explain that. Right. So the places where things are different, and I'm sure a lot of the marketers can attest to this, is you're always thinking about how do you build versus buy capabilities. And when it comes to performance marketing and data, it's around, are you buying data? Are you building the capabilities? Are you building tracking capabilities? And the larger companies always have better ability to build and have traditionally had a leg up. Mm-hmm. Especially in the last decade or so, all of the commoditization of capabilities. I mean, a lot of our sponsors are actually testament to that. They made it easier for the mid and smaller size companies also to have the same kind of capabilities. In fact, now I would say larger organizations suffer from wanting to build everything rather than buying things off the shelf and customizing it to their needs. So that's been a big shift. If you'd asked me 5-7 years ago, I would have been much more in the how do I build my data platforms from scratch. Now I'm more in the there's enough out there. How do I connect the right things and focus on what I'm good at, which is my business, rather than try and become an expert at something that I'm not great at. Mm-hmm. But what continues to be the same, Steve, is you can still access the same high quality talent, the high caliber talent. People are attracted, like as you get into in our space where we're growing fast. We've been growing at strong double digits for a very long time. People are attracted by the speed at which we move, the ability to make a difference, and also to grow their careers. So the culture and the ability of people to learn matters even more at our scale. And we can have the same level of sophistication. So with great talent and very similar tools, with the right team and the right agency partner, we've been able to have just as much of an impact here at Ideal Image than I would have had in my other brands.
Tell me a little bit about that stack and how you built it at Ideal Image, and how much of it is in-house as opposed to outsourced to agencies, and how did you make those decisions for this scale company?
Yeah. So for us, I'd go back to my comment around, we knew that there's a high premium to what we build in-house. So for the most part, what we have been able to do is take commodity solutions and put them together. So we have a standard CRM stack, like our backbone, which is on Salesforce for the type of business that we are in. And then it connects into the agency platforms. and then have a couple of different agency platforms that we are connecting into. So all of that, where I'm focused on is the data back and forth, but the platforms, I'm not building them, I'm not maintaining them, which allows me to focus on capturing the data and also making sure it's portable so that if I'm ever changing partners, I can do that.
Where are the buying decisions being made? Are they being made predominantly in-house or at the agencies?
That's a great point. The buying decisions are still in-house. Mm-hmm. So for us, it is well, I should say it is a partnership, but at the end of the day, the intent resides in-house with the head of performance marketing. Like that is something which I found is a best practice because those are the people who are closest to the business and would be able to make the right decisions. Having said that, with the right agency partner, we're finding that they know our business just as well as we do, and that's a pretty significant leg up for us.
Now, the ideal image product set is not necessarily a simple or quick sell. It would seem to me that it's a multi-touch sell. And tell me a little bit about what the customer journey looks like, and particularly what your performance media map looks like against that journey in terms of where are you acquiring customers? What is it? What pieces of tell me sort of walk me through that performance funnel that you're moving people through, so we get a sense of what media you're buying.
Absolutely, Steve. So just a little bit about our business. So we provide, as I said, aesthetic services. It's all non-invasive, FDA cleared, primarily focused on hair removal, body shaping through fat reduction, and skin rejuvenation and skin tightening through Botox and fillers and the like. So our primary audience tends to be women, broad range, 25 to 65, who are in the market for these products, right? The way we go about it is, if you start with the consumer mindset in the space is pretty much this is probably not for me, it's expensive, it's complicated, it's opaque. And the industry honestly has made that to be reality. It is a difficult industry to get information on. So given that fact, what we have done is, instead of selling directly, which I was doing at my last brand, it is much more around lead gen and getting people interested and getting hand raisers. So the consumer journey is, how do we get someone interested, get them to fill out a lead gen form, and then have a virtual private consultation with them over Zoom on a one-on-one basis, and then talk to them about their needs, what are they trying to do, build a package with them over Zoom or in the privacy of their own home, and transact over there, and then they can go into one of our points of care to get treated. So the journey goes lead, sales, and then treatments. Mm-hmm. And this is true whether you're buying laser hair, Botox, or anything, and whether you're brand new and you don't know the industry at all, or this is your nth time getting Botox, and you know how the process works.
What are you using for lead gen? What's the main source for lead gen?
Yeah, so for lead gen, again, it is your usual performance marketing channel. So it is how does site play into it, how does paid search play into it, how does paid social play into it. I do want to get into, I think earlier someone mentioned performance television. That's a big and growing part of what we are doing as well, and we're seeing great success there. So regardless of the customer journey, what we still find is that the performance marketing channels still work, and the same principles around gather data, measure, optimize, test are still very applicable even in our industry.
Now you've become much more dependent during the pandemic on these virtual consultations. You had sort of had the technology before, but the pandemic really shifted things around so that now, rather than wanting to move people into the retail experience to have that consultation, you're doing it online and having a somewhat a different retail experience. Are you saying that the performance mix didn't really change because of that? That's pretty much the same performance that was driving them to an online consultation was the same as driving them into retail?
No, actually, the performance mix is now almost 100%. Actually, not almost. It is 100% measurable and online in many ways. So pre-pandemic, we were heavy in radio as well, and we're making the shift towards paid search, paid social, But what we found is with the cratering of just how media was being consumed and the change, we are finding exclusively performance marketing is where we are finding all of our success. So we exited radio, which for a company which was doing radio as late as late 2019, that's a pretty big shift pretty quickly.
Yeah, so making that one change to the basic business model actually shifted all your whole media map changed.
Exactly. Our entire media map changed, and what happened is we were able to pivot quickly. And later on, and I know we want to talk about how the iOS change or how some of these tracking changes are making a difference. I think what we're finding is with the right team and with the right agency partners, you can overcome these challenges and actually make it a strength. So we were able to pivot quickly. Some of our competitors weren't. And as a result, we were able to gain market share through the pandemic. Sounds crazy, but pretty true.
So what specific efforts did you have in campaigns were most successful in driving people into this lead gen funnel? And is this we have a video that gives at least an example of the sort of advertising and messaging that you're doing. Is this a good example? Should we play it now? Is it a good example of what's been working?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we just to prelude to that is, as we went into COVID, what we realized is obviously the media mix needs to change, but the prices cratered as well. So we tested into performance TV, which was on our roadmap, but we accelerated that. So maybe we show the spot on what a performance TV ad looks like, and then I can speak more to it.
Okay, Ryan, let's play that now.
At Ideal Image Med Spa, say goodbye to shaving and hello to silky smooth skin. Schedule your free consultation at idealimage.com today. Our medical professionals use FDA-cleared lasers that safely target your hair follicles, so hair sheds and stops growing back for long-lasting results on all skin types.
Go to idealimage.com now to book a free consultation and get up to 70% off.
And ask about our lifetime guarantee program, Ideal Image Med Spa. Confidence changes everything.
Now, Yogi, where would we have seen this? Where were you running this, and where was it performing best?
Yep. So you would see this on any of the streaming platforms. So whether it's Hulu, YouTube, but also DirecTV, a lot of the current providers like CNN and the likes also have the streaming platforms. So you'd see the ads on those platforms. The difference being, and you see this in the ad as well, it is much more focused on a call to action. It is much more focused on price and what are you getting out of it. The brand comes across, but the goal of the ad is how do I drive performance, and then how do I create a brand halo. So all of the impressions were trackable, measurable, and this was one of the benefits of COVID, where we were able to invest here because everybody else was pulling back. So as prices cratered, one of the things we did was test new areas, and that's now helping us as prices are starting to go back up again.
Where were you finding bargains? Because the streaming had exploded, and we kept hearing about people being priced out of the streaming market.
It's interesting. There were definitely a lot more bargains in the remnant space, and what we also found is those bargains ended quickly. Like I gotta admit, probably around the October-November timeframe, the prices snapped back to normal. But there's a period in between over there where many of the brands had vacated the space. So CPMs had fallen by more than 50-60%. And what that did is we went in, tested. So by the time we learned and figured out what the optimization needs to be, the prices came back up. But now we had a foothold with the data, and we could optimize our way further.
And was that one of the advantages of having in-house buying as well? Has it allowed you to make some of those do those quick tests and make those moves?
Absolutely, and especially as it relates to performance marketing, you mentioned it a couple of times, but the better partners are the ones who have the technology to be able to do the testing, and that's what we found is consistently with the right partner who's got more of a technology platform rather than a, ad platform or an ad mindset. That allowed us to get further along very quickly in a test and learn environment.
That's a nice segue into the idea of tracking, since you said that tracking is lead gen and tracking is so integral to what you're doing. So as we're starting to see the walled gardens become even more opaque, users moving away from mobile identifiers, a lot of browsers moving away from cookies, how much does this shift away and move towards the cookieless environment? How does this impact your model and accessing and tracking your customers digitally?
Yep. Steve, I'm gonna say something which might sound too optimistic, but I'm pretty certain all of these changes are a net positive for anybody attending this conference. Let me explain that, because that sounds counterintuitive, right? It is always in interest of the media industry, rightly so, to make it easy for marketers to market and target and track and so on and so forth. Beyond a point, it makes it harder for the great marketers, for the great performance marketers, to separate from the ones who are not that great, whether it's tools, capabilities, or talent. As more barriers come in, so almost think of walled gardens and your complexity in tracking across devices and platforms. They're nothing but barriers which are put in the way of how do you target somebody better. Here's the thing: it's a problem. It's definitely an issue for us. So we do see that our the data collection goes down. But in the context, we are not the only one disadvantaged. Everybody faces the same disadvantage. So what we have been able to do, knowing this was coming, is take a lot of our offline data, for example, our first-party offline data, and have data passbacks set up. And now, so I am seeing a bit of a degradation in how my data is performing or how my targeting is performing. But guess what? Everybody's seeing a degradation. I'm seeing less of a degradation. So net, I'm coming out ahead. And the story would change. Like this ability to track or more hindrances to track, rightly so, to match consumer intent. That's always going to be there. I think what I'm saying is the better marketers would always find a way around it, and many are. And get a leg up on folks who are maybe not as sophisticated. So I actually think it's a net positive for this group.
Does that mean, is the solution then finding the data workarounds like you described, leveraging your offline data a little more effectively, or is it a creative solution? Does that mean now that to differentiate, for performance marketers to differentiate themselves, they need to start thinking more about messaging and context than they did before and come up with a different strategy?
It's all of the above, Steve. Absolutely. So some of it would be a data solve where you have offline data. Like we're in a sense lucky that we do have first party data which we can send in an offline environment. Some marketers don't have that ability. But then how do you focus on the messaging, the creative, the ability to make much more of a difference across the funnel, not just in the channel itself.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we should mention, because I think this is an interesting point about Ideal Image, your whole retail experience is also changing as a result of this. You're thinking differently about the retail experience, about why you're driving people into retail, and even the shape that retail takes for them when they get there, right?
Absolutely, Steve. We now consider ourselves as a D2C aesthetics platform, with the retail locations being where services are performed. Mm-hmm. Whereas pre-pandemic, we were primarily selling in the retail locations as well. And that shift has ensured that our retail locations are focused on customer service and driving the best service for our customers, not having to worry about the 15 other things that a retailer has to do within the same box.
So you're a very optimistic sort, Yogi, I can tell, because this whole conversation has sort of looked for silver linings, and you find silver linings in all of the adversity that others have found. The pandemic moved you towards a different and better model for yourselves. The disappearance of cookies is forcing you as a marketer to perform differently. Okay, if not identity tracking, then what should be keeping marketers up at night?
Absolutely, it's Steve. The thing which I'd call out is it is around data, right? So with more and more concentration of digital marketing with Google, Facebook, Amazon's media business is growing really fast, but I think the three of them combined are north of 80% of all media dollars, if I remember the stat correctly, right? Those platforms having a better view into our customers is probably a bigger business risk than anything else. So in the short term, we do gain benefit through data sharing, through better targeting. But we've all read stories of how Amazon would use sales data to figure out where to build private label brands, right? Or Apple building the best apps into its iOS platform itself. Like, those are the obvious risks. There's also the less obvious but equally impactful risk around getting disintermediated by these providers. So the whole restaurant apps, or whether it was even Google trying to get into travel related apps, like those are examples of consumers would inherently trust these platforms more than the brands. So how do you maintain that relationship with the consumer so that you don't get disintermediated by these ad platforms? I think that's a risk, and that's a risk even for brands like us, frankly, where it might not, like, Google's not going to get into the Botox business anytime soon, but they could disintermediate the sales process, and that'd be pretty impactful. So that does keep me up at night.
I want to remind everybody that we want to go to Q&A. So if you've got a question for Yogi, either raise your hand with the Zoom interface or type it in, and Lisa will read it off in a second. Okay, let me ask you to answer your own question then, Yogi. What are you doing to ensure that these platforms don't disintermediate you in the sales process? Are there particular tactics or strategies that you can put in place now?
Yep. And it goes back to Steve, ensuring that we have a direct relationship with the customer beyond just the first purchase. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's our CRM platform, the ability to know what did you raise your hand for, what did you end up purchasing, every treatment touch point, everything that we sell to you after that, so that we are not going through just one platform or overly reliant on just one platform, but rather we are going through multiple touch points, multiple platforms. This is where, as a performance marketer, this might sound counterintuitive, but this is where building the brand, not through TV ads, but through the experience the customers get, is even more critical today than it was in the past.
Let me ask Lisa to come in and see if we have any questions.
Yes, we do. Hey, Yogi.
Hi, Lisa.
All right, we have a question from Keith. He says, it seems due to the pandemic that more folks are wanting Ideal Image services because of the amount of time they spend on Zoom. How are you using SEO to capture the younger patients, and how are you differentiating yourselves from the competition?
Yep. Keith, thanks for the question. And you kind of answered your question in there. We're definitely seeing a lot more demand for our services. And SEO has been one of the three pillars, I would say, for us. So whether it's site, as I said, in our category, people are generally looking for information first, and that's where the search doesn't start with Ideal Image. The search starts with, what is Botox? How do I get a laser hair removal? So paying attention to those searches and making sure that we're capturing that volume has been critical for us. Constant innovation over there. So we're running, I think, almost a test a day on that front right now through multiple ways, and we've been able to grow SEO as a percentage of our total lead mix. So that's pretty impactful, and that's pretty powerful. So if anything, it goes back to, that's another way you can get around walled gardens to some extent by making sure you're going directly to consumers.
Great. And we have another question from Kofi. How are you using list building in your sales funnels?
So just to make sure I get the question right. So when you're thinking about list building, we're primarily focused on how do we build our first party list rather than we buy lists. That's a conscious choice we've made because again, the consumer mindset is this is very personal, this is very intimate for many of our customers. So we don't want to be coming in as, hey, we bought your name off of a list, you want to buy our services. But a lot of as we capture everything from your lead information and so on and so forth, we're making sure we maintain a golden record of the customer. And if you'd come in 10 years ago, we still have your information and we still know exactly what you bought, what you got treated on, and what you're interested in so that we can pick up the conversation from there. That personalization has been critical to our customer service.
Okay. And I think that's it. Steve, you're muted. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm fighting my lawn guy who showed up in the middle of this interview. So excuse the lawn sound. Yogi Jashnani, the Chief Commercial Officer at Ideal Image. Thank you so much again, Yogi.